December 2005, the Australian government enacted legislation now commonly known as WorkChoices. And that had a profound impact on Australian employment law and workplace relations.
The effect of WorkChoices has been to reduce people's conditions of employment. And I know some people are not happy about some of the aspects of recent Labor policy, but the fundamental choice we all have to focus on is the difference between WorkChoices and the alternative. And on the one hand, you've got WorkChoices, a system which reduces people's conditions of employment through AWAs, destroys the safety net, takes away the right of the independent umpire, very importantly takes away people's rights at work.
The bishops expressed their concern that the proposed legislation didn't provide a proper balance between the rights of workers and employers in several respects. 1, minimum wages. 2, minimum conditions of employment and bargaining. 3, unfair dismissals. And 4, the proper and appropriate role of unions.
It provides for no right for collective bargaining and no right for freedom of association, the right to join a union. So in the end, we all have to focus on the fundamental choice that's in front of us in this election. It's a choice between WorkChoices and the alternative, which actually restores all of those things. And the most important of those is the right for collective bargaining. You cannot have a system, you cannot have a country which considers itself to be free and democratic if there's not a fundamental right for collective bargaining. The right for workers to join together, to be part of a union, to negotiate and get reasonable deal and protection. And that is the fundamental right that we have to restore. It's not just an argument about the sort of industrial legislation we want in this country. It's an argument fundamentally about what sort of country Australia is going to be. Is it going to be a free country where people have rights at work, where they have the democratic right to join a union, to express themselves, to come together to protect their rights, or is it not? And of course the alternative under WorkChoices is not in accordance with international rights and international obligations.
Any industrial relations system must provide a fair and proper balance between employers and employees. Critically, it must also provide fairness and protection for the poor and the vulnerable, whether employed or unemployed, for working families and for young people. Will the future quality of society be measured by our economic value as individuals or by the depth of our shared humanity? This is not simply a question that should be asked by the Church, but by any decent citizen. The depth of our shared humanity. The integration of economic growth and social justice and a fair go is a fundamental obligation of government. The Church's mission is to be an advocate for justice, especially for those who lack power or those who lack resources, to form consciences, to be the advocate for justice and truth, to educate in individual and political virtues. That's the fundamental vocation of the Church in this area.
They suggested that I should ring Wageline and find out exactly what the award stated and then approach my boss. When I rang Wageline and they told me my details, I soon found out that I was being ripped off and exploited as an apprentice, and that I should approach my boss with this problem. A week later, I approached my boss, and to my surprise, he treated it as a joke, laughing in my face. A few days passed by, then my boss approached me with an AWA to abolish my penalty rates and allowances. He said if I didn't sign it, that he would close down his business and that I'd be out of a job. So then I replied with telling him that he could stick it right up his arse.
There are a few battles that have to be fought in the coming months and years. Yes, there are a few battles. Battles that have got to be fought and battles that have got to be one.
So I ask everybody, as we face now, we're really effectively in an election campaign situation, to focus on those fundamental issues, that fundamental choice, the right for collective bargaining, the right to join a union, the right to have protection at work, to not feel oppressed, to not be victimised if you're a member of a union, if you're joining together with your workplace. That is the fundamental issue that we face over the next month or two as we go into an election campaign. And in the end, I'd ask everybody who's marching today to join together, to work, to get rid of the Howard government, to put in a fair industrial system and to work for a fair country. Thank you.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in a union.
Big march today, and it's all people are talking about protecting your kids' rights. Translate that for the community. What do we mean?
Well, you know, when your children can't get a job permanent enough to go to the bank and say, I need a loan to buy a house, or I want to further my education, or anything like that, you can't get it these days. You've got to have money in your pocket to do these things, you know? Education's not free. They tell us. So, you know, I mean...
So it's a tough time for kids?
It's a tough time for everyone, you know?
What about people's kids? Why is that the theme?
Why is that the theme? Because family comes first.
And John Howard, are work choices really hurting people?
Definitely.
I see you brought your young fella along. Do you think it's important for children to understand politics?
I think it's very important that we get rid of John Howard's laws. I mean, we need conditions. And Howard doesn't want you to do anything. He just wants you to work for the boss and just cop a wage that he thinks you see fit. Terrible, mate.
Well, we're just fighting over the rights of the kids in the future. I would like them to hold the conditions we have at least not be going back to third world conditions in this country.
So are you genuinely worried about the future of your children?
Of course I am, of course I will.
What's the worst part of the work choices legislation as far as you're concerned?
Well, I just see the families are going to suffer under the conditions, and I just see that living standards are getting harder and harder without losing more and more standards in their life.
What's the average union bloke really like? Can you tell Mr. Howard and some of those people who say they're bully boys?
They're just a family people, I suppose. Majority of them, I'd say, are family people just want to live and have a decent life for their kids, and that's about it.
Plumbers are out in force. It must be a very strong union. It must be something to do with Earl Setchers, is it?
Exactly, mate. Great leadership.
Is that because he's a Richmond supporter?
He's a good Geelong man, mate.
Is he?
Down. Yeah, we all love the Cats.
And you've painstakingly put the banner together. Who's responsible for that?
The Plumbers Union and the ACTU, mate.
How's John Howard travelling just at the minute?
I'd say he's a dead man walking, one would hope.
Oh, you think we're over the line? Is it the end of the man?
Not until the final siren.
Brian, are you happy with the turnout?
Yes, I am. We'll pick up at least another 8,000 or 9,000 as we go through the city. Historically, we always do that. We started off with about 22,000, so we'll be up to about 30 by the time we get to Federation Square.
Now, the whole theme is about protecting your kids' future. Just explain to me, why is this so significant?
What we've learned in our campaign against John Howard's IR laws, and work choices in particular, is that a lot of parents in the unions have initially secured their rights and conditions and wages in many instances, but they're finding out that when their kids are growing out of school and going into the workplace, they're getting whacked by individual contracts and AWAs, and they're really worried about that. And that's showing up in all our studies.
Okay, in a word, is it over for John Howard? I mean, most people are saying it should be. Is it over? No. Is it over?